Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandavat Pranams. Please accept my humble obeisances to all of you. Today we'll be playing the recorded class of His Holiness Bir Krishna Goswami Maharaj, and topic is Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 6th chapter, and text 11. So let me share the audio. Hare Krishna.
Techa Yurva Kritanaya Nijaloka Yatra Yanda Parampara Yash Vastas Tamas Yande Swayameva Prapatishyante. Repeat. Those people not following the Vedic principles. Cha and he certainly Arvaktanaya deviating from the eternal principles of Vedic religion. Nija Loka Yatraya, by a practice arrived at by their own mental concoction. Anda Paramparaya, by a disciplic succession of blind, ignorant people. Ashvastaha, being encouraged. Tamasi, into the darkness of ignorance. Ande, blindness. Swayameva, themselves. Prapatisyanti, will fall down. So translation, low-class people, due to their gross ignorance, introduce a system of religion that deviates from the Vedic principles. Following their own mental concoctions, they automatically fall down into the darkest regions of existence. So you repeat, low-class people, due to their gross ignorance, introduce a system of religion that deviates from the Vedic principles. Following their own mental concoctions, They automatically fall down into the darkest regions of existence. So, purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this connection, one may see Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, where there's a description of the downfall of the Asuras, chapter 16:16 and 16:23. So that's a short purport. So we'll just go on and read the next text and comment on that. So text 12. Ayam avataro rajasopa pluta kaivalyo pashikat shanartaha. In this age of Kali, people are overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance. Lord Rishabhadeva incarnated himself to deliver them from the clutches of Maya. So purport. The symptoms of Kali Yuga are predicted in the 12th canto, 3rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lavanyam Kesha Dharanam. It is predicted how fallen souls will behave. They will keep their hair long and consider themselves very beautiful. Or they will pluck out their hair as the Jains do. They will keep themselves unclean and will not wash their mouths. Jains refer to Lord Rishabhadeva as their original preceptor. If such people are serious followers of Rishabhadeva, they must also take his instructions. In the 5th chapter of this canto, Rishabhadeva gave his 100 sons instructions whereby they could become free from the clutches of Maya. If one actually follows Rishabhadeva, then he will certainly be delivered from the clutches of Maya and return home back to Godhead. If one strictly follows the instructions of Rishabhadeva given in the 5th chapter, he will certainly be liberated. Lord Rishabhadeva incarnated specifically to deliver these fallen souls. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chatsur and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, it's interesting. Just a little comment about what we talked about the other day was Anusar Anukar. It means either imitating or following in the footsteps of. There's a difference. Like people imitate not only Lord Rishabhadeva, but they also imitate Lord Shiva. That's a main thing. It goes on, and then they smoke ganja, and they walk around naked like Lord Shiva does. But Lord Shiva is walking around naked because he's in so much ecstasy, he doesn't even have time or the inclination to think about the clothes. That's a real Avaduta and Lord Rishabhadeva. So they follow the example, yet they don't follow the instructions. And the nature of the souls, especially in Kali Yuga, they're looking for a little excuse to gratify themselves. As they say, if you give them an inch, they take a mile. And there's a typical example I've given before, many times, when Prabhupada was, one time he drank 7-Up. And, once or twice he took 7-Up. And therefore, pretty soon thereafter, the devotees had a whole 7-Up truck delivering beverages to the New York Temple. One of these big, soft drink trucks they pull up. And because Prabhupada said a few times, very refreshing. So people are looking for excuses to enjoy themselves in any way. And so that's an indication of the mode of ignorance. And they don't listen nicely. So here, the different symptoms of Kali Yuga are alluded to. At least one of them is mentioned, keeping long hair. I thought it would be appropriate in that regard to read some of the other symptoms of Kali Yuga so we're aware of why and how religions become degraded and people in general become degraded. And, of course, anyway, this is from, as Prabhupada quotes here, is from the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which lists the 12th canto, 2nd chapter, 12th canto, 3rd chapter, both list symptoms of the age of Kali. So I'm going to read some of these verses. Shukadeva Goswami said, "Then, O king, religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of life, physical strength, and memory will diminish day by day because of the powerful influence of Kali." Now remember that. Religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of life, physical strength, and memory. Every day it's going down. So, of course, we know about the 4 principles of religiosity: cleanliness, mercifulness, truthfulness, and austerity. And sometimes they're compared to the 4 legs of the bull. And 3 of them are completely gone in the beginning of Kali Yuga, which is cleanliness, mercifulness, and austerity. And these are gone for various reasons, like illicit sex or intoxication, gambling. The regulated principles being broken. And truthfulness is sort of there at the beginning of Kali Yuga, and then it's quickly diminishing, as we're experiencing now with the leaders of society and many people. I mean, telling the truth is just not part of people's life anymore. So here's more symptoms. In Kali Yuga, wealth alone will be considered the sign of a man's good birth, proper behavior, and fine qualities. Like you see that if someone is extremely wealthy, they get more respect than other people, and also bodily beauty. But that's also mentioned later on. And law and justice will be applied only on the basis of one's power. Here's another one, and I hope I'm not offending anybody. Men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction, and success in business will depend upon deceit. Womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in sex, and a man will be known as a Brahmin just by wearing a thread. Actually, the thread is inconsequential, this is a different subject matter, just like we're having a discussion now about what's called the FDGs. It means female Diksha Gurus, for those who don't know. There's the acronym for you. And one of the objections that people say that women can't become gurus is because they don't wear a thread. Because how are they going to give a thread if they don't wear a thread? And this is kind of funny, because a thread is inconsequential. In fact, we find that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after he took sannyas, didn't wear a thread. So how was he going to give initiation? So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was therefore unqualified to give initiation because he didn't wear a thread after he took sannyas. Before he took sannyas, he was all right, but after he took sannyas, he wasn't. Anyway, so the concept of this thread is so important. Is a very ritualistic, external concept. It's the important thing is actually the mantras, and actually the whole point of wearing a thread. I'll give you a little Vedic history in this regard. Is that originally the thread was given to a young boy at the time of Upanayana. That means if they were Brahmanas about 8 years old, they were given what's called the Brahma Gayatri, which is the first line of the Gayatri mantras. The other Gayatri mantras are actually Vaishnava Gayatris. This one is actually like a Vedic. And the other ones, the Vaishnava, the other ones are Pancharatriki, is the technical name. So actually, usually at the time of initiation, the Vaishnava guru did not give a Brahman thread because the guy already had one. And it's interesting because he just gave the mantras. And then later on, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur instituted the procedure of giving people from non-Brahmin families who didn't have that Upanayana when they were young, which is the Upanayana is given at 8 years old. He instituted that, giving that to people from all sorts of castes who became devotees, and the reason for that was preaching. I mean, the whole point of the Brahmin thread is so people will respect you and you can preach. Like Lord Chaitanya took sannyas so that people would respect him and they wouldn't commit offenses against him. So anyways, that's a side issue. But, people will be considered a Brahmin just because they have a thread. A person's spiritual position, next text, will be ascertained merely according to external symbols. And on that same basis, people will change from one spiritual order to the other. In other words, they'll go from like brahmachari to grahasta just by changing the color of their dhoti. Or from grahasta to sannyas or vanaprastha just by changing the color or the style of the dhoti. And they'll be considered like Prabhupada talked about his neighbor who would put on a sannyas dhoti during the day to make his money and turn all the money into his wife in the evening and then change back into the white dhoti in the evening. So we read that. Let's see. A person's propriety will be seriously questioned if he does not earn a good living. Like people say to devotees sometimes, get a job. And one who is very clever, even my mother says that. And one who is very clever at juggling words will be considered a learned scholar. And you see that when you read some of these scholarly treatises. It's very hard to understand what they're saying. And basically, if you analyze it, probably they're saying something that could be expressed in one sentence, but they're taking 3 or 4 pages to express it. A person will be judged unholy if he does not have money, and hypocrisy will be accepted as a virtue. Marriage will be arranged simply by verbal agreement, and the person will think he is fit to appear in public if he has taken a bath. A sacred place will be taken to consist of no more than a reservoir of water located at a distance. Let's go to the beach this weekend. And beauty will be thought of to depend on one's hairstyle. It's a fact. Just look at America today, like how many hairstylists there are. Traditionally, people would, depending on whether they had straight or curly hair, they just wear it in one way. It wasn't a big deal. But now, there's all sorts of little things that they do to the hair. Especially the men. And of course the women too. Filling the belly will become the goal of life, and one who is audacious will be accepted as truthful. He who can maintain a family will be regarded as an expert man, and the principles of religion will be observed only for the sake of reputation. As the earth becomes crowded with a corrupt population, whoever among any of the social classes shows himself to be the strongest will gain political power. Losing their wives and properties to such avaricious and merciless rulers who behave no better than ordinary thieves, the citizens will flee to the mountains and the forests. And you see this actually in the United States Congress. They're just interested in, their own elections. There's thieves, basically, most of them, just like thieves and rascals. And because of that, they won't do what's necessary to help with the economy or help the people in the United States. Of course, there's other issues, too, like they eat meat and everything like that. The citizens will suffer greatly from cold, wind, heat, rain, and snow. And this year in Vrindavan, and UP, that's a state in India, it's been so cold that many, many people have died from the cold. Just like you're all, how cold is it? 74 degrees in here, and you're all wrapped up real nicely with little stove hats and everything like that. But in Vrindavan, this year was like 38, 39 degrees. And people don't have insulation, no nice heaters in their house, no hot water. They still have to go to the well to get their water. And so many people died because of that. They will be further tormented by quarrels. We see that. People are fighting over the female Diksha Guru thing. Hunger. It's a big fight. It's amazing. As I mentioned before, the internet, ISKCON internet system, PAMHO, went down because it was overloaded with all the spam mail about the female Diksha Guru issue. Big issue. It's a no-brainer. And then hunger, thirst, disease, and severe anxiety. The maximum duration of life of human beings in Kali Yuga will become 50 years. That's towards the end. By the time the age of Kali ends, the bodies of all creatures will be greatly reduced in size, and the religious principles of followers of Varnashram will be ruined. The path of the Vedas will be completely forgotten in human society, and so-called religion will be mostly atheistic, like the Buddhist religion, the Jain religion, and so many other religions, mostly atheistic. The kings will be mostly thieves. The occupations of men will be stealing, lying, and needless violence. And you see all the guns and everything nowadays. After this killing happened, in the school, 26 kids were killed. The amount of guns purchased, I was just listening yesterday, reading, that it's doubled or tripled in the state of Florida, the amount of concealed gun permits. Because instead of people thinking, maybe we shouldn't all have guns, they're thinking we got to protect ourselves and all get guns. So in Florida, it's something like 1 out of 4 people carry a concealed pistol gun. Concealed means like a pistol, you put it in your pocket, you can't see. And all the social classes will be reduced to the lowest level of Shudras. Cows will be like goats. Spiritual hermitages will be no different from mundane houses, and family ties will extend no further than the immediate bonds of marriage. You see that the nuclear family is really the family, and you don't even have that anymore. Most plants and herbs will be tiny, and all trees will appear like dwarf shami trees. In Japan, they're very proud of these little shami trees. But that's a symptom of Kali. Clouds will be full of lightning, homes will be devoid of piety, and all human beings will have become like asses. At that time, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will appear on earth, acting with the power of pure spiritual goodness. He will rescue eternal religion. More symptoms. We'll leave out. This is all about Kalki's incarnation. We don't need to read that right now. Here we go. And then from the third chapter, here's more in the third chapter. Oh, here. The third chapter. In the Kali age, people tend to be greedy, ill-behaved, and merciless, and they fight one another without good reason. Unfortunate, obsessed with material desires, the people of Kali Yuga are almost all Shudras and barbarians. The material modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, whose permutations are observed within a person's mind, are set into motion by the power of time. When the mind, intelligence, and senses are solidly fixed in the mode of goodness, that time should be understood as Satya Yuga, the age of truth. People then take pleasure in knowledge and in austerity. O most intelligent one, when the conditioned souls are devoted to their duties, but have ulterior motives, these are the different ages, of course, and seek personal prestige, you should understand such a situation to be the age of Treta, in which the functions of passion are prominent. Next text. When greed, dissatisfaction, false pride, hypocrisy, and envy become prominent, along with attraction for selfish activities, such as a time for the age of Dwarpa. So even in the previous ages, there were problems. Dominated by the mixed modes of passion and ignorance, and then finally in Kali Yuga, when there is a predominance of cheating, lying, sloth, sleepiness, violence, depression, lamentation, bewilderment, fear, and poverty. That is the age of Kali, the age of the mode of ignorance. I'll read that over again. Predominance of cheating, lying, sloth, that's like laziness, sleepiness, violence, depression, lamentation, bewilderment, fear, and poverty. That's the age of Kali. Because of the bad qualities of this age of Kali, human beings will become short-sighted. That's not in reference to nearsighted or anything like that. That means they'll only look at the immediate future. They won't look at the long-term future. Unfortunate, gluttonous, lustful, and poverty-stricken. The women, becoming unchaste, will freely wander from one man to the next. You see that, just like my steady boyfriend. Cities will be dominated by thieves. The Vedas will be contaminated by speculative interpretations of atheists. Political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and the so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. Oh my God. Time to go back to Godhead. The brahmacharis will fail to execute their vows and become generally unclean. The householders will become beggars, the vanaprasthas will live in the villages, and the sannyasis will become greedy for wealth. That's funny. It's a fact. Not all bona fide sannyasis, but you actually see that. And therefore it says in Kali Yuga that the grahastas will actually come begging to the sannyasis for money. Women will become much smaller in size, and they will eat too much. Have more children that they can properly take care of and lose all shyness. They will always speak harshly and will exhibit qualities of thievery, deceit, and unrestrained audacity. Businessmen will engage in petty commerce and earn their money by cheating. Even when there is no emergency, people will consider any degraded occupation quite acceptable. Servants will abandon a master who has lost his wealth, even if that master is a saintly person of exemplary character. Masters will abandon an incapacitated servant, even if that servant has been in the family for generations. Cows will be abandoned or killed when they stop giving milk. So you see these things all happening. Remember, this was all written down or spoken before these things were manifest. I mean, way before India was invaded, way before there were cows killed in India or anything like that. These predictions are extremely accurate. In Kali Yuga, men will be wretched and controlled by women. They will reject their fathers, brothers, and other relatives and friends and will instead associate with the sisters and brothers of their wives. Thus, their conception of friendship will be based exclusively on sexual ties. Just like I don't know if I should mention. Anyway, my brother, he has to get permission from his wife to see his mother. Yeah, she won't let, and sometimes he has to sneak out to see his mother. My mother, obviously. It's his mother, too. Obviously. Can you imagine that? And my poor mother is completely traumatized, and she's so happy that I'm a member of the Hare Krishna movement now and didn't get married. So, because I don't have to get permission from anybody to talk to her. So it's like that, it's like completely controlled. Uncultured men will accept charity on behalf of the Lord and will earn their livelihood by making a show of austerity and wearing a mendicant's dress. That's what I mentioned about the neighbor that Prabhupada had when he was young. Those who know nothing about religion will mount a high seat and presume to speak on religious principles. You see all these Bhagavata people in India, all these different posters around. In this age of Kali, people's minds will always be agitated. They will become emaciated by famine and taxation. My dear king, and will always be disturbed by fear of drought. They will lack adequate clothing, food, and drink, will be unable to properly rest, have sex, or bathe themselves, and will have no ornaments to decorate their bodies. In fact, the people of Kali Yuga will gradually come to appear like ghostly, haunted creatures. In Kali Yuga, men will develop hatred for each other, even over a few coins. Giving up all friendly relations, they'll be ready to lose their own lives and kill even their own relatives. Men will no longer protect their elderly parents, their children, or their respectable wives. Thoroughly degraded, they will care only to satisfy their own bellies and genitals. O king, in the age of Kali, people's intelligence will be diverted by atheism, and they will almost never offer a sacrifice to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Spiritual Master of the universe. Although the great personalities who control the three worlds all bow down to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, the petty and miserable human beings of this age will not do so. Terrified, about to die, a man collapses on his bed. Although his voice is faltering, and he is hardly conscious of what he is saying, if he utters the holy name of the Supreme Lord, he can be freed from the reactions of his fruitive work and achieve the supreme destination. But still people in the age of Kali will not worship the Supreme Lord. There's a story of a devotee who was telling his her mother or father or something like that, now chant Hare Krishna, you're leaving the body. And he said, no! And they left their body saying no. In the Kali Yuga, objects, places, and individual personalities are all polluted. In other words, everywhere is polluted. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, however, can remove such contamination from the life of one who fixes the Lord within his mind. So, I'm sure that's very enlivening to hear about all the qualities of Kali Yuga. But of course, Kaler Dosha Nidhe Rajana Sheko Mahadgunad Kirtanad Eva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Paramvajet. Of course, that's a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kaler Dosha means bad or bad qualities. Kaler Dosha Nidhe Rajan. O king, In Kali Yuga, there's all sorts of bad qualities, but Asjeko Mahadguna. But there is a good quality. And that good quality is Kirtanad Eva Krishnasha Mukta Sangha Param Vajet. That if you take up this chanting of Hare Krishna, Mukta Sangha, you will achieve liberation, Param Gajet, and go back to home, back to Godhead. So that is the real point. That Kali Yuga is so polluted that as soon as we are not engaged in devotional service, we become subjected to the influence of the age of Kali. So we have to figure out some way to absorb our minds 24 hours a day in Krishna's service. We have to be engaged according to our psychological, psychophysical nature, and we should have good sadhana. Without that, there's no hope in Kali Yuga. So these are some of the points, and then we should follow Lord Rishabhadev's instructions. So any questions or comments? We'll leave a lot of time open. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just out of curiosity, the chronology of this reference to Kali Yuga. This is Sukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Krishna.
Yeah.
It's like one generation into Kali, and referring to Rishabhadev. So Rishabhadev's pastimes are, I can't pin a date on it, but they took place, and then this king appeared prior to the exchange with...
No, Arhat, King Arhat is actually way after Shukadeva Goswami.
He's referring to this king who concocted the...
Arhat, yeah. Arhat appeared after Shukadeva Goswami recited the Bhagavatam, yeah.
Ah.
He's actually a historical king. If you look at the Jain history, and then it was after.
Was that?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a prediction.
His prediction, yeah. And you see it happen.
Yeah.
Like Lord Buddha was predicted. There's so many predictions in the Bhagavatam.
No, the descriptions are really vivid in my mind.
Yeah.
Like the Orientals and the American Indians, really long hair, plucking out hair and having really long...
American Indians is
American Indians, they actually pull the hair out instead of shaving. And other tribes have extremely long hair, and they're rub different kinds of animal fat on their body in place of a bath. And it's like...
Oh, what to speak of in France? They just put perfume that came from the sexual glands of animals, particularly the civet cat, on their bodies, and they wouldn't take a bath all winter. It's not only the tribes. I mean, don't just criticize the poor American Indians, but it's your Europeans too were just as degraded. I mean, they were so dirty in Europe, not taking baths. Then you have these plagues like the bubonic plague and other plagues. There were rats running all around. Rats, and people didn't take baths or know about cleanliness. And later on, of course, who was that? Starts with an L. Who discovered Lubanic or something like that? He was the first one with a microscope. Louis Pasteur, but there's another one who invented the microscope. Was Lubanic or something, and he was the first one to see that there are germs. And therefore, then people started to understand maybe they should clean their hands after eating or before eating, or before passing or after passing. People began to understand that. So the point is that the people in Europe were just as bad. I mean, I don't want to. I mean, of course, I'm not an advocate of the noble sages. Sometimes we see people really get into. Oh, the noble sages, they were so much connected with the universe. I mean, of course, there were certain good qualities, like they understood that there was a sun, they worshipped the sun, there was some demigod worship amongst them. But there were many degraded qualities, in the same way in Western Europe, extremely degraded culture in Western Europe. I mean, even today, especially today, just like I had one friend who came from Germany before he became a devotee, and he would describe how his family, they lived in a castle, one of these old stone things. And during, Christmas or any holiday, the whole family would go to the basement and sit around this giant table, and there'd be a pig there with an apple in its mouth, I'm sure you've seen pictures of that. And they'd all feast on it. So it's not just the Aborigines and everything. And, I mean, practically everybody was an Aborigine or is an Aborigine nowadays. And in America, there's just a veneer of cleanliness, a veneer of manners and other things. Veneer means a very, very, very small covering. But actually underneath, they're just as bad. I mean, it's better to be just an Aborigine and you really know what you're getting. But in America, people are worse than Aborigines because they're making some act or claim to be civilized. I mean, just like perfumes, like you make it, you think, oh, perfumes, it's so nice, everybody smells so nice. Not that you're thinking that. But, where do they come from? These women, they put on all these perfumes, and then they come from of course, originally they come, some of them from whales. They would kill all these whales, the sperm whale, or they would kill the cats and, rub their sexual glands and get the perfume from there. And perfume originated because people wouldn't take a bath during the winter. I guess it's a good idea to wear perfume. Because otherwise everyone would be throwing up from the smell. And so it's not that Aborigines or the American Indians were any worse or any better. I wanted to sort of like deal with that illusion that people have. The noble savages. They're not worse and they're not better. We're all just savages in the name of civilization. Yeah, of course they did so many things, but we're rubbing so many things on our body too. I mean, just like, all right, you talk about rubbing animal fat on the body. Where do you think soap comes from? Isn't it? I mean, you say, well, they rubbed animal fat, but what are we doing? We're buying Ivory soap, which, there's animal fat in it, and we're rubbing it on our bodies. Yuck. Yucky. So we're all pretty bad off, right? Or toothpaste with cow bones in it. If you normally buy this toothpaste, many times it's cow bones or sugar. Sugar sometimes is whitened with cow bones. Not always. I mean, I was in Fiji at a sugar refinery, and they were doing it with a centrifuge rather than with cow bones. But so we're just bad. It's just that we do everything in a very sophisticated way. We're like, one time Rita Maharaj said, it's just like the pigs are eating in the street, and we're eating in an airplane, being served by the stewardess, and so we're like flying pigs. You understand? Flying pigs. So we're doing it. We're like pigs who've dressed up. Just like I had one disciple, he put a dhoti on his dog. So we're like dogs and cats that have dhotis on. And not all of us, I mean, we're not devotees, forgive me. But for people who are not devotees, I gotta be careful. So, or like dogs and cats, dressed up in pants. Imagine putting pants on a cat. And they do put pants on dogs sometimes. And little sweaters, and they have like mink stoles for dogs, little hats for dogs. So, I mean, we're like that. Not us, particularly, or not you all, but I mean, people in general are like that. Just this veneer of civilization, and then we think we're better. It was like when I was young, we would go visit the Seminole Indians in Florida. You ever do that? Yeah, we go to see them wrestle alligators. So we go in and just, look at, you think, oh, these are primitive, savage people, the wrestling alligators and things like that. And we're thinking, we're much better, we're likely tourists. Of course, now, one day I walked behind where they were wrestling alligators to see what their homes were like, and they had TVs and everything else. They were modern homes. So they were just acting like that to make a living. Just like you go to California and you see these different places where people act like cowboys and Indians. What is that? Nutson's Farm or something like that. I forget where it was. So we're no better, actually worse than the Aborigines, because we're putting on an act like we're civilized. That's the point. And we're doing the same things, but we don't recognize it. So any other questions? Questions? Yeah.
I always wondered about that, because whenever I know so many Indian families, they never knew about the tallow rate.
Yeah.
The tallow.
Tallow in the soap, yeah.
And I was always wondering, it can be possible to tell them, like an announcement during the Sunday feast or something, because people are not aware. They come from India where they can't get vegetarian soap, and all of a sudden they...
Yeah, maybe we should mention that to people. Soap, toothpaste, perfume, shoes, pocketbooks.
Well, the shoes and pocketbook is a little more obvious, at least.
Not to so many people. What? Shampoo. Oh yeah, shampoo. Anyway, so we shouldn't be proud thinking that we're any better than the noble savages. They're noble, at least. What you see is what you get. With us, is what you see is not what you get. Jai Shri Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai.
Hare Krishna. It was an eye-opener class by Bir Krishna Goswami Maharaj. Thank you for actually, bringing us to the attention that Kali Yuga is not a place to stay. We should be focusing on our sadhanas, but the good quality. I mean, if you see the bad qualities of Kali Yuga, it just goes on. It was like it was just going on like a sahasranam. It was just going so many. But the good quality is to take up the chanting of the holy name and getting back to Godhead in this very life. And that's what he was trying to emphasize, and what Prabhupada is also saying over here. So sadhana is the only hope. That's what actually Maharaj was saying here. So I'll just open the lines for all the participants, share their comments.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dadatna Prabhu. It's not a comment, but I think we may have to remind about Monday's class timing. His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan or Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj will be here, Prabhuji. So he will be giving class from 8 to 9 in the temple. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya classes will be live telecast from temple on Monday from 8 to 9. Tomorrow also Maharaj will be in the temple giving class in the morning and also in the evening.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for actually reminding that. Yes, sure. We'll be getting his association after quite some time. Yeah.
Where is he from, Prabhu?
Maharaj is from Russia, but he had come here and stayed in the temple for quite some time in between. I think during the COVID time.
In Russia, most of them are in Moscow only, no, Prabhu, not in the other places.
I don't know where in Russia, but yeah.
It's not from Russia. I mean, it's from outside Moscow, but he preaches across Russia and different places, Mataji.
Okay.
He's initiating spiritual master.
Okay.
Maharaj was with us during COVID time for about 5 to 6 months. He stayed in our temple. He actually walked us through, I think, Lagu Bhagavata Amrita Prabhu, right? And also gave several classes on Bhagavatam and
Yes, Bhagavatam class I remember. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yep, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhuji, Sunday evening program Maha Satsang, that will also be on Zoom, Prabhuji, or how is it?
Prabhuji, we will check and update Prabhuji.
Fine, Prabhuji.
Because we need devotees to be available in the temple as well. We'll check who will be available.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Because there will be parallel classes. I think we are having the Bhagavad Gita classes for the newcomers. I don't know whether that is going to be rescheduled or it will happen. Because our hosting team is split across multiple places, different sevas.
Yes. Prabhuji, I just have a request, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, the background screen of Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya here, there we have written our old altar.
Yeah.
Can we please click to?
Yes, Prabhuji. We will change it, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. If there are no other reflections or comments, we'll just end the session today with the Vaishnava Pranam. Panchakalpatarubhascha kripasandhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavanam Anantakoti Vaishnavanda ki jai Grantha Bhagavatam ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Nitai Gaur Sitarananda Hari Hari Bol. Thank you. I'll just end the session.
No,